All right. I did not mean to hit that end broadcast button. I was trying to just delete the guest off. So I'm gonna make this brief in case people are joining in. If people are seeing this now and they want to join into this discussion, that's fine. I can give another 30 minutes or so if you want to do a quick Q&A. And then I'm gonna call it a night for myself. But I really did not mean to end that broadcast. I really wanted to debrief, and I wanted to open the panel for people that wanted to ask questions or say stuff. So I apologize for ending the broadcast early, family. You can share this if you want, or if not, it could just be to me and a few that are seeing this. But ultimately, what I want people to understand is that the reason why I take my due diligence to research and to study is not only to be able to have fruitful conversations with people who may have an opposing worldview and not misrepresenting the worldview, because I understood what his worldview is. I was able to hold a dialogue, and I was able to say things at the end that he would agree to, because I already knew what angle he was coming from. You know what I'm saying? I already knew, you know what I'm saying? And I knew that, the brother wanted to have a dialogue with me for some time, you know what I'm saying? And, this was an opportunity for him to do that. And I just want people to understand that you are well within the confines of you as an adult to subscribe to whatever culture you want, to a spiritual system. What we subscribe to here is we subscribe to being Israelites, and there's a particular worldview that we derive from culture that leads us to a spiritual understanding of things, right? But we try to do this carefully, and we try to do it faithfully, based on extant data that exists within the literature or within the material culture that helps to ground these things in which that we're saying, right? And this is extremely important. Now, to my audience, I apologize for y'all. Some of y'all was like, why'd you let this guy go in? Why'd you let him talk that much? No, number one, like I said, some of y'all probably don't know that I have a history with him. Like I've known this guy at least for, like over 5 years. It's been some time since I've known him and see his transition and everything like that. So I'm familiar with Flex Vortex, right? And familiar with his way of thought and his development, over the years, and things that he started to branch out on, and, the recent challenge of Nimrod and all that other stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. You want to come on, let's talk about it. However, when we get to the nitty gritty towards the end, you understand what he wanted to show me. He didn't really want to go into academia and talk about those types of things. He wanted to give me his relative view in regards to the God consciousness, right? That's something that he's been teaching for a long time as a Christian mystic. And I thank him for admitting that he still is a Christian mystic. He still is. He admits that, right? It's been a long time since I heard him say that. But nonetheless, what I simply want the audience to see through that dialogue, even though it was passionate, it was spirited, is that even when somebody comes on and they are diametrically opposed to some of the initial things that I'm saying that we're discussing, at the end of the day, you have to demonstrate that you understand that person's worldview, that you're not going to misrepresent it, that you're not here to proselytize, because I'm not here to proselytize. And number three, that you can end off in brotherhood, right? Well wishes and all of that. Peradventure, if things change in his life, they'll change. I don't have to change it on a conversation, right? And my worldview is going to continue to be set the way it is. I've examined several worldviews, and this is the worldview that I hold more closely to based on the information I share, right? So ultimately, with that being said, I wanted to go into the things that I wanted to say, but I could do a part 2 on that another time. I could go live again this week, and we can go further into that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, family, the things that we teach about culture, it leads people to spirituality. We try not to do it the other way around, because in order for a person to understand symbolism, they have to understand the culture or cultures in which that symbolism has arisen from. And we have to look at the connotations the cultures place on them. So they might be a common, like example, like I mentioned the goat. When you use a goat, that comes from pastoralism. Somebody that's around goats all the time and is able to see the characteristic of goats. And then it leads from there elsewhere. This is why when we talk about speculative and operative masonry, they take the things that are shared in the trade of masonry, and they add symbolism to it. They add this inside esoteric knowledge to the things that you're seeing being done in the open. All right. However, you have to go back to the trade to understand how these things are valuable to the trade before they develop into a symbol in other cultures and ideas and things of that nature, right? I know several Masons, and they take oaths for things, and certain things they just can't publicly disclose. But I'm going to say this. I've had some of those Masons share everything with me behind closed doors. And they say, well, if you want to know somebody's a Mason, ask this, ask that, ask this, ask that. So when the brother was on here, I could kind of tell. So I was asking a couple of questions, and he admitted that he was a Mason. You know what I'm saying? And I could have got a little deeper with it and more particulars, but I didn't want him to unravel that because you take an oath, right? So I don't want him to go against his oath. I wouldn't have him do that. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm simply saying is, once you start understanding what certain initiates of certain secret societies, and it's not about being spooky. Oh God, the Illuminati. No, just secret societies pre-existed the Illuminati. All right. And secret societies existed for particular reasons. One of the main things that we're going to look at from African culture, the reason why, like the Igbo, they have a secret society. Why? Because there are certain teachings that are passed down to generations that are only known to a few. And the reason for that is because if the culture ever gets compromised, the people who are going to make the compromise are not the ones holding that knowledge. The ones holding that knowledge have made an oath unto death. The ones who are just beneficiaries of that knowledge, they don't have the same oath. So they may convert, they may betray, but the ones who actually hold the knowledge, they're not revealing anything unless you kill them. That's the only way that the knowledge is going anywhere. It's going to go with them into their grave. You know what I'm saying? So studying secret societies, you understand these things. And when you get to modern day Masonry, you understand these things and symbolism and why it's important, and that people who still follow religion are rudimentary and they're primitive, and they understand the hidden things, the mystery things, or the mysticism behind the culture or religion that they follow. I say, no, you can't understand that. Once you get a grasp of the culture, then you can understand the deep things of the patron deity of these people. Because the things that they're channeling and they're sharing wasn't just a myth out of nowhere. They believe it came direct revelation. These are testimonies, not just from the Israelites, but from the entire ancient Near East. They give testimonies of encounters with ethereal supernatural beings that shared knowledge with them. This is pervasive through the ancient Near East. Now, modern people today say, oh, they were bugging out, and that's not really what it was, or they was in a trance because they had some hash or something else like that. They'll find other ways to kind of like humanistic ways to kind of talk that off. But if you want to go from the testimony of the people, you can tell me, well, they meant this, but did they write anything about what they thought and what they believed? And if they have written that, because there's ancient commentaries, we have ancient commentaries from the ancient Near East. They explain to you what they mean about this, and the things that they write, those commentaries was not set aside for the public to know. These are things that we go in and then we excavate and we find these things. And guess what? We don't have the same sensitivity to the knowledge that they did. We get it today, we publicize it, we publish it, and we put it out there for anybody to gravitate and look towards. So the things that we'll read about in an Ugaritic text, some of those things were not meant for the layman to read. It was not meant. Same thing with Israelite culture. Some things were not meant for the layman because the layman would do the wrong thing with it. This is why we have the symbolism, the Most High calling Moshe up to the mountaintop and revealing things to him that he did not reveal to the general people and his own inner circle. Same thing with Yeshua. When he went to Mount Transfiguration, he only took a small amount of witnesses with him when he started to speak things to them and share things for them. So we understand these things. This stuff is not like it's so esoteric that we can't get the exoteric understanding of it. You when you dive into the esoteric, it comes from a source. It didn't come from thin air. Some people will say, well, it comes from the general consciousness that's in all of us. No, actually, it came from a source somewhere that one culture added to, another culture added to, and through trade and migrations, now they've acculturated and they're cross-exchanging these ideas and these items and these symbolisms, and it's an amalgamation of things. My interest is in pre-exilic Israelite culture, and understanding that culture gets you to understand the patron deity of Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh and his revelation to that culture. That is who he's the deity for, that culture. But then, you have Paul coming along, and Paul says, in times past, he winked at our ignorance, but now he would all men repent and come to this knowledge of who he is. This is why we're talking about the statue of the unknown God. So you sort of having an opening up to the Gentiles about this information, because remember, even the sacred name Hashem, the sacred name was changed to Adonai. And the diacritic marks for Adonai was superimposed onto Yod He Vav He so that the pronunciation of the sacred name wouldn't fall into the hands of the Gentiles and be defiled. So this is extremely important to understand, that all the stuff that the brother was saying, we have the same information in our culture by way of the patron deity Yod He Vav He. It's all in this culture. All that stuff is in this culture. That's how you build your spirituality. But the ritual elements of it that we get from the statute, laws, and commandments, and not just the concrete rituals, but the other items, are reminders that we have been given this information by a particular creator that we ascribe to be Yod He Vav He, El Shaddai, El Elyon, etc., etc. All right. So yes, there are some Masons that have ill intentions, and there are Masons that are not, that don't have ill intentions. And the ones that I've met seem to be the ones that are really cool. And a lot of them turn their back on Masonry because they were looking for one thing and they didn't get it, so they left. And there was other sources of information that resonated them more than what they were learning in their lodges, right? Because they go through rituals as well, because that's part of mysticism. Mysticism involves rituals as well. It's just these rituals are esoteric and is hidden from public view. And the problem with this hidden information, hidden rituals and stuff, is that when it's not on public display, it cannot be scrutinized for authenticity. And that's the thing that secret societies fear the most, is that their inner secrets get put on public display for peer-reviewed and scrutiny. Because once that happens, and it no longer becomes esoteric. You understand what I'm saying? So it's good for us to understand this knowledge, this understanding. It's good for us to read up works on it, and be able to have discussions with people on it, but do not let it de-alienate you away from the cultural disposition that you gravitate towards and that you resonate with. That's it. The same deep knowledge is contained in here, but the method in which you acquire it comes first from the cultural elements that lead you to the divine. And that's important. Okay. So I was trying to go back and deal with the Christian thing, but I'm not going to do that tonight. It's late. I'm going to close this off. I just wanted to debrief after that conversation, because y'all saying, Divine, why you let him talk like, so much? And because there's an expected end. When you play chess, like I do, I play chess, there's an expected end. You know that you can't just rush everything while you're playing chess. And sometimes you have to allow your opponent to be on the offensive. Because when they're on the offensive and you're in defensive, it's different than when you're on the offensive and they're on defensive. And then you learn to bring them to a common ground before you checkmate them. So all the stuff you were saying, he said it just to say, my brother, I agree with you. Yes, because I know where you're coming from. I know the moves you're going to make. I know the scriptures you're going to go to. I know the word you're going to say, go look up that word. I know these things. I've played against this before. But what I'm simply saying is that at the end of the day, it doesn't nullify anything that we share, we teach on this channel. If anything, it better equips people to have these type of conversations that you guys just saw me and the brother Lex Vortex have at the end of the day. And this is why I was trying to show him when I went to the cultural thing, it started bringing a light bulb. Because then he started saying, okay, how are you going to tell me as an initiate to teach the uninitiated things or stick within the uninitiated when I'm trying to teach them the things that the initiates have? How did initiates acquire that information? Well, they got it from studying a culture. And what they do is they take it and they generalize it. However, the culture meant it just within the confines of their group. And it's when other cultures come and subvert that they try to take that knowledge and expand it. That's what the Greeks did. They took the indigenous cultures and knowledge, and they wanted translations of whatever their written works or whatever their oral traditions were. They wanted it all in Greek so that they can understand the things that was held from them. So now we get a situation when you have the translation of the Hebrew tradition of text to the Septuagint, or it's really the Pentateuch. The Septuagint came later. When you get to certain passages, like the sacred name is written a particular way so that it's not defiled by the Gentiles, because they understood the Gentiles are going to take our culture and defile it. And guess what wound up happening? You got the sacrificial pig that is right there on the altar. That's exactly what the Gentiles did. And this is why we need cultural autonomy. So the things that we speak amongst each other, things that we share, will have relevance to ourselves, and it will have precedent over our thoughts, our ideas as a collective, and what we choose to do identify as the children of Israel under the auspices of the patron deity Yod He Wah Fe. All the stuff that we talk about, we share, and we do. Once you have the tools and I teach you and you learn it, that's what the initiates do to the uninitiated. They provide them the tools for self-discovery. When I give you these tools, it's for self-discovery. But the agenda is different. My agenda is the liberation of our community. It's not no ecumenical, give everybody a hug, we all one family. No, I'm dealing with who I identify as the lost sheep of Israel. I'm dealing with my community. I'm dealing with this particular ethnic group. It's not limited to this ethnic group. Of course not. I have associates and friends and people I know that's outside this ethnic group. But the assignment of this particular ministry is to a particular demographic. So the things I share are things that resonate with that demographic, and it's there to build them up, to get them this knowledge and understanding, and why culture is important to leading you to this understanding and knowledge. This is like when and I'm gonna give you this last thing and I'm gonna end off on here. Thank you so much, Rhodium USPM, for the donation. I appreciate that. And everybody who donated on the previous live, I didn't get to thank y'all while I was going back and forth. Thank you for that as well. I appreciate that, right? But what I'm simply saying is that's why when I had a discussion with JJ7000 and he's talking about the word goat, you know, he's saying it's the word demons there. And I said, what's that word there in Hebrew? Just give me the word. Say it's the word for goat, right? Yeah, it's the word for goat. Well, why is it goat and not demon? Explain what that means. He could not. And the reason why he couldn't is he didn't understand the cultural values as it pertains to goats. So what he's getting as a later translation is not the best representation that the initial scribes and orators intended for their immediate audience. That's all. All right. So with that, family, being Kodesh makes you part of a secret society. Did you know that? Our culture that we practice amongst ourselves makes you a quote unquote secret society. What do you mean secret society? It's just things that we do that we have not outwardly unveiled to the public, right? Because they're not going to value. See, initiates don't share things with somebody who's uninitiated because they're not going to value what is being provided to them. Our culture is our external immune system. And we have gone for so long without it. We have gone with a pseudo immune system called Christianity. And that has not protected us the way that it intended to. And therefore, we become subjugated to the powers that be by means of religion. And now we see the situations where now these Black Christian apologists and these woke church are now hitting the ceiling with other white Christian apologists. They're hitting a ceiling. You know why? Because that religion was not designed with you in mind. I'm not talking about Christianity per se. I'm talking about the form of Christianity that you are entangled with today was not designed with you to be at the top of it. It's not designed. It's designed to still have the subliminal means of shackling you and preventing you from going as far up as you can. Because if it wasn't, it would be welcomed, but it's not welcome. It's the same way where you have the master who allows one person on the plantation to become the preacher and preach to the people. And then all of a sudden he starts preaching sermons about liberation. Master, oh, hold up, son. What is you talking about right now? Got to check him. You're doing too much. You're using this religion for something that wasn't designed to do for you and your people. It's designed to keep you controlled. It's designed to keep you at bay. It's designed to let you know that we're still at the top, not you. But when you have cultural autonomy, you're at the top, you and your community, not the powers that be. These other ethnic groups, they know that. This is why they're going higher and higher as we're going lower and lower, because we're the first ones that are open to exploitation and open to, being amalgamated with other groups and not trying to establish our own. That becomes dangerous. And they don't want us to be a danger to the fabric of society that they've created, where the narrative is to keep us with a particular demographic, stereotypical profile. You're still an N. No matter what you do, you're still going to be a byword. You're still going to be Black. You're still going to be an N word. I don't care. You went to where? College? You went to seminary? Oh, you got what degree? You got a PhD? Oh, okay. And you teaching what? What you teaching? Oh, I'm going to let you know. You still an N. I'm going to let you know that. That's the way it is. When you get back into your culture, you reclaim your lost culture and you reestablish it and assert it. And you go against the grain of the Orthodox religion. You are now reclaiming your identity, your heritage, and your integrity. No one can sway you away from that. That's why you see with all these guests I talk to, and y'all see me rock out with all types of variety of people that have come on this platform, and even outside this platform. I can rock with the best of them. But whatever they want to talk about, let's rock with it, because I'm well read, and not just read. I've encountered people who subscribe to those things. At the end of the day, you see I'm not moved. You see where I'm at. You see what I'm doing. I'm not moved, and there's a reason for that. And this is what I'm trying to share with y'all. I'm trying to give y'all the same tools, the same knowledge, and the same confidence so you can do the same thing. It's a dangerous world out here. So for you Christian apologists that have not addressed the elephant in the room, Western Christianity is still steeped in racism, and there's no way you can get out of that. It's not yours. It's theirs. You're trying to co-opt something that's theirs. It's not yours. And I'm gonna end off with this, and I'm done. Because like I said, there was more that I want to share with y'all. I'll wait to a future session. Let me share this last video with y'all, and I'm going to be out. Okay, I'm going to get out the way. I want to share this last session with y'all. All right, just give me a second. I want to show you something. Because if Christians want to be, if Black Christians want to be Christians, they have to abandon Western Christianity. And my suggestion is, what do you replace that with? Well, let me show you. I'm going to show you real quick, and I'm going to be done with it. I'll give you an example. Here it is. You see what that says? Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Okay. This is in Kingston, Jamaica. When you see Christianity by means of this type of understanding, where the people, when you see Ethiopian, which is African people, are at the head of the particular religious sect, that means there is no hierarchy. You understand? In sense of ethnicity. Western Christianity, there's a hierarchy of ethnicity. White people's on top of that. Black people, y'all need to chuck and jive for master. And if you get out of pocket, master's going to marginalize you, call you a heretic, call you a whore. That's what Jeff Durbin said. He called them a whore. He called the woke church a whore. Check this out.
It's a sign so that, right? And in the meantime, can you just, whilst you're going to record, if you could just tell me individually your name, and you can remind me of which, with ourselves and the Roman Catholic, more so than with the Protestant churches, because the Roman Catholic administers the 7 sacraments as we do, and also the veneration of the Mother of God is also practiced by them. So there are similarities, but the Orthodox family of churches to which we belong, and it is called the Oriental Orthodox churches, really constitute the 2 twin churches which are indigenous to Africa. The Coptic Orthodox Church are the Egyptian Orthodox Church, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church are sister churches.
Did you hear that? The Coptic Church and the Ethiopic Orthodox Church. So if Black people are going to be Christians, why don't you subscribe to the Christianity that came out of Africa? Why are you subscribing to a form of Christianity that was brought to you by the slave masters' constituents, who were the traders and the missionaries that brought y'all over here? And you think that you can have their religion within the construct of a society that favors them and not you, and think that you're going to find some way to bring liberation to your community within their system of religion, it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. They like to say, well, yeah, well, you know, the church was African, Tertullian was African, but y'all don't subscribe to the things. So you know the stuff that Tertullian was saying? Did you read everything he was saying? Y'all don't subscribe to all of that. Stop that. You know what the Coptic church believes? You don't subscribe to that. You know what the Ethiopic church believe? Orthodox Tahawido church? Y'all don't subscribe to that. Do not claim them, because they don't claim Western Protestantism over here in the West. When I say West, I mean Europe and the Americas. They don't subscribe to that. They don't hold to that. And they understand the overt racism in there and the limitations that they place on people of color, because it was a Christendom system designed to keep you subjective. It's just not going to work. And you get mad at us for trying to achieve cultural autonomy. We're breaking away from that. We're breaking away from that. So what I'm simply saying to you guys, and again, this was part of my message, I didn't get to finish it, but I'm going to close out, is that Christianity, Black Christian apologists, have to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the form of Christianity that you have today was not designed with you in mind. It's not designed with you in mind. The only way you can prosper in it is if you follow protocol from the handlers up top who are white. That's just how it is. And when you go against that and start talking about Black liberation, all this stuff, and you are Christian on top of that, you're going to get blowback. But as an Israelite, I could talk about liberation for the Black community, and people won't even impose upon that. They won't agree with it, but they can't impose. You know why? Because they're not at the top of my cultural autonomy. Me and my community is not them. So I could care less what they say about me. They just don't have any mind control over me. They don't have any guilt control over me. I'm not associated with them, so it doesn't affect me. So what I'm going to start doing is I put books in the Patreon. Those of you interested in Patreon is www.patreon.com/DivineProspect. I have several books on there that go into Christianity in Africa. It goes into Christianity in the South in America. They even give you testimonies from ex-slaves themselves. Know the provenance of a thing. Ask them, how did you get Christianity? They'll say, well, Christianity was adopted by Ethiopians without the sword. Well, that's not the Christianity that you follow today. So why are you even referencing it? You don't follow that form of Christianity. There's certain rites and all types of stuff, sacraments and stuff that I could bring up that you don't do. So why are you referencing them? Oh, to give you leverage in a discussion with me. It don't work that way. It don't work. All right. No, I paused the video, sis. It's not playing. I paused the video. All right. I paused the video. All right. So I'm simply saying this to say, I want you guys to go back and study Coptic Christianity and Ethiopic Orthodox Christianity. So the next time a Christian apologist makes a reference to Christianity being in Africa, say, why don't you follow this then? Why don't you follow that? They'll say, well, I could be a Calvinist because, you know, Calvinist got his stuff from Tertullian and all those other people. But Calvin does not have the same tenets of faith that Tertullian had. He doesn't even have some of the nuances of things that he believes Calvin didn't subscribe to. What about the African churches that was influenced in that region of North Africa? Do y'all hold the same similitudes to them? No, you don't. And if you want to have a discussion, that we can, because I can bring out the books and we can go through it. So those type of parlor tricks and sleight of hand, it's not going to work on me, and it's not going to work on y'all, because y'all are very bright, and I'm just equipping y'all to be even smarter. Don't let these pastors shame you. Don't let nobody make you feel bad and call you a cult because you want to follow your culture. Don't let nobody demonize you, call you heathen. Let it roll right off your back, because it's very easy for us to show that they're the actual ones in the cult. And like I said, one of the ways to discover that is how somebody gets excommunicated from a group. There's even cults in Israel, in Hebrew Israelite community. There's cults in this community too. So I'm not just saying it's only in Christianity. There's cults everywhere. But to call our entire movement a cult goes to show that there's some fear. There's some fear. Churches do not want their members waking up to this information. It's not good for them. And they know it. This is why they have to demonize us. This is why they have to say these things to deter people. But guess what? Those who are seeking to be initiates, they're going to persevere past all the fluff, all the barriers, and they're going to get to the nitty gritty truth. And those of y'all who are in this chat are some of those, and I appreciate y'all for that, for pushing through, for persevering, for maintaining your integrity in the midst of attacks and being called names. We are the strongest people on this planet because of that. We've persevered and endured almost everything. And following this way of life is going to bring more of that persecution your way. Hold steadfast. Hold steadfast. And that's my word to you guys today. Be emunah is the Hebrew word for faith, which means to be solid, to be anchored, to have a foundation. See, when you start talking about pre-Israelite culture, Christians don't understand this. It's alien to them. And it's supposed to be. It's for y'all. It's for us. And that's leading us to the way that the culture intends for the spiritual system to be understood. Not from Christianity's perspective, but from our perspective. And this is why we have been giving the assignment to teach these things to other nations. Now, again, we're doing this from a disadvantage. But the more we acquire, the more we bring collectively amongst ourselves for us to sift through and filter and reconstruct and restore, the more that we do an honor to our ancestors who have fought for us to keep these things. And we will continue to maintain it despite what they throw our way. All right. So that's all. I want to give y'all some encouragement and just let y'all know that I'm here to support y'all. And again, you know, if you watch that dialogue and it frustrated you, then that was the wrong thing to get from it. It wasn't to frustrate you, right? Because he's talking and saying things and it may seem like he's over talking me. He really wasn't. Sometimes I was over talking him. It was just in the spirit of the moment. However, what I want you to grasp from that is when they say things about our community, let them know that we're not afraid to talk to anybody. We'll talk and have a discussion with you without cursing you out, without getting angry or mean, and ending off the conversation in love. Because they talk about love all the time, but they always spew words of hatred about us. And I say, y'all see me talk to these brothers who have all types of opinions. I say, all right, my brother, you know, or king, I give them words of endearment. I show respect, even if they've been disrespectful. Even if they've been disrespectful, I give them a pass. 1 pass, 2 pass after that, then I have to just cut you off altogether. But at the end of the day, what I want people to see is that when you follow this line, there are certain things that you could achieve that can get you past these type of attacks. And it's something that is a work in progress because all of us has faults. All of us has flaws. All of us have things that we're working on, we're struggling with. The bottom line is, do you keep fighting or do you throw the towel in? And if you keep fighting, why? What is the incentive? What is the incentive to keep fighting? I understand that the fight that I'm fighting is not for myself. When you get to that level of self-actualization, that you realize that the reason why you've been given things is for the benefit of the community, is because that is the village mindset that our ancestors had before we got displaced from it. That is why we yearn for it. That's why we desire it. That's why we do everything we can to try to form those type of cliques. And this is why you'll see these things play their way out in gangs and so forth, because these are things that are inherent amongst us, but they're displaced and they're secular and we don't know the roots of it. And what we're trying to do is restore those roots, because the roots connect you to the creator, and the creator's intent is for you to have a purpose. So that way, whatever the assignment is on your plate, no matter what comes your way, what mistakes you make, what decisions you take, directions you turn, as long as he keeps guiding you back to that path, you know you have a purpose. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It's things going to happen within your household. Things going to happen on your job. Things going to happen with extended family members. Things going to happen at a congregation that you may be at. You know what I'm saying? Around your friends or associates or whatever the case may be. Understand your purpose in the midst of these things. And your purpose gives you stability, right? Stability. And we all don't have it 100%. It takes time. But as long as we have these markers along the path, then we can point to the marker and say, look, I'm trying to align myself with this marker. This is what the cultural mandates that we call Torah. That's what it does. It keeps you cleaving onto these markers so you can make it from one step to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, until you get to the point where you're no longer here, and then you get to meet your maker. We are here for his pleasure. We're here to be we're here not to be selfish, but to be selfless. And when we read the thing that Paul was saying, I read in Philippians, those of you who subscribe with Paul, he was saying very clearly, be affectionate towards one another, have the interests of others. He said, let this mind be in you that was in Yeshua. Yeshua had the same mindset. That's what he came to teach. So when somebody gives me an esoteric understanding of it, I'm saying, look, it's very plainly clear what the text is conveying. It's interpreting itself. And this is the same thing that we have to acquire. And it takes time, it takes discipline, and it takes mistakes to know, okay, I tried that this way, it didn't work, or I fell this way, I got back up, and you keep pushing forward. You ask for forgiveness from your neighbor, you ask forgiveness from the Most High, and then once that is done, you have to keep pressing forward. Because if not, people who are in a state of as we see, people in the world, when they're in a state of bitterness and anger, they're going to hold you to certain faults so you don't proceed, right? We have to make amends. We have to move forward, and we have to keep pressing towards that mark. These are words that Paul says. Press towards the mark. These are things that Yeshua was telling his disciples to persevere, even when they persecute you, because they're going to hate you because they first hated me, right? As the children of Israel was hated, and there was a conspiracy to cut them off as a people because of the anger, the bitterness, and the things that we possess that the other nations and other people who think like the other nations in our community do not have. You're the definition of Emunah. You're the stability. And all we're doing here with this platform is restoring these things back to you so you can reconstruct your true self. All right. All right. So with that being said, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I know it wasn't a lot of people in here like we had in the previous live stream because I cut it short. My apologies for that. For hopefully those who saw that one will go back and watch this one as well so we can see the recap. And with that, family, I thank you for watching. I'm going to try to go and unwind and get some rest. I pray that y'all enjoy your Shabbat. Those of you who are keeping your Shabbat, enjoy your Saturday. Make the most of it. Anything that we've provided to give you tools or resources or just things to ponder, bring it in meditation. And if you don't know what meditation is, I did a whole lecture called Meditation by the Book. Meditation by the Book. Go check out that lecture this Sabbath and hopefully let it empower and enrich and strengthen you to continue on in this journey. All right. Shema says, can we talk soon? Sure, we can talk soon, my brother. Definitely. Let's do sometime next week. I'll schedule you for a discussion and we can chat. All right. Because now everything is being scheduled because I have a team now that'll be able to take the front facing stance and make contact with everybody that is requesting information or consultation or discussion with me so I can have things organized in the order in which you received and I can give everybody that personal touch. So I thank the Most High for bringing the right people in my path so that way I can engage you guys efficiently and be able to help build this community that we're building. Right. So shout out to all you guys, who rock with us and who've garnered for us. And thank you guys for your donations, your support, your prayers, and everything that you've yielded to this ministry so we can be who we are today. We can't do it without you and without Most High allowing this to happen. All right. So with that said, thank you for watching. I love you guys. Peace and shalom.